Hello, church. Pastor Jack here, and welcome to my study. Welcome to my channel. First things first with Pastor Jack. We've missed a couple of days of doing videos, and I apologize. Things like life happens sometimes, and we just get tied up on stuff. And so, anyway, it's good to be back with you today. Today, we're going to start a new series on the I am statements of Jesus, and we're going to be looking at them in the Gospel of John. And we can learn a lot from these statements that Jesus gave, and it'll help us understand our theology, or at least it helps me understand my theology. Hopefully, you'll be able to work through them and see what Jesus is trying to tell us in each of these. But the first one's going to be in John the 6th chapter, the 26th through the 44th verse, and I'm not going to read all that to you. Flip over there and read it if you will, but it is the statement that says, I am the bread of life. And as we examine these verses here, we see that it come right after Jesus had took the 5 loaves and 2 fishes and fed 5,000 plus people, and had 12 baskets left over. We did a video on that a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully, if you don't remember that video or don't remember the story, go back in the archives on YouTube there on my channel, and you can find it. And he had walked on the water and went to the other side of the sea there that they were at, and then some of the crowd found him where he was at. And he had separated himself from the disciples for a little while, and they got confused, but they finally found Jesus and starts talking there in the 26th verse about how that you're only looking for me because of the bread. And these were people, no doubt, that had been fed some of that 5,000 that had been fed the bread and the fishes. Here we see that they had found Jesus, and he said the only reason they were looking for him was because of the bread. And we see that a lot in churches today. We see a lot of people that are only looking to God for what they can get out of God. And we need to understand, that there's going to be people like that. There's going to be people that's only looking to God for the things they can get out of God. And we can't tell the difference. Now, Jesus, of course, could because he was God, but we can't. And so we never need to judge people, but it needs to be in the back of our mind that some people's just there for the bread. And they're just there for the good things. They're just there for the good times. And when hard times come, they're gonna go a different direction. And you probably know people you can think right now that you went to church with in the past, and whatever took place, something took place, and they're no longer around. Uh, that's real life, and it was going on in Jesus' day. Uh, Jesus told me in the 27th verse that the Son of Man will give you meat that will endure, and he'll give it to the ones that the Father had sealed. Looking in the Net Bible, the King James use the word seal. In the Net Bible, it says seal of approval was on. In other words, the seal of approval of the Father was on. Uh, the Father chooses, and we can't pick the ones out that the Father has chosen. We don't have X-ray vision. We can't look down deep inside of them, and if we could, we wouldn't know what to look for. But the fact of the matter is, there are those that the Father has chosen that will eat the bread of life and will enjoy life and have a good life, and there's others that will listen and not understand, and they're only there for the bread to fill them for a few hours. I think most of you are like me. I can be just totally full and think I'll never eat again, and then in 4 hours, I'm hungry again. And that's the human side, and that's the human way of eating bread. And there's people in the church that are still in that humanity, and the Father hadn't sealed them, the Father hadn't picked them, and they'll never be any better than that. Just a few hours, and then they're hungry again. But God gives us something that'll last forever and ever. And He tells us in these verses that we must believe on the one that sent Jesus. He says, you know, that's how you know that you're chosen, is you believe on the one that God sent, His Son. And we need to do that. In the 30th verse, they start asking for a sign and said the Father's got manna. Still focus on bread. They got manna. And Jesus says, they said Moses give them the manna, and Jesus said that Moses didn't give it to you, the Father did. So the Father give the bread, not Moses, and the Father is the one that gives the bread of life today. As we go down into the 34th verse, Jesus said, or they say, give me bread. In the 35th verse, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Knowing Jesus as your Savior is the keys to life. He is the bread of life. You don't have life. You might think, if you're listening to this and you don't know Christ your Savior, you might think you have a life, but I'm telling you, you don't. You might have an existence. And for some period of time, as Job says, it's a vapor that passes. You might have an existence, but you don't have life. I never would have had a life without Christ. You know, I have a great life now, but I would have not had one without Christ. I would have existed. I would have never been happy. I'd have never been satisfied. I'd never had peace. I'd have never had joy. I might have had happiness and misunderstood it for joy like a lot of lost people do. But true joy has nothing to do with my situation. True joy is, that's the meat that God gives me that will be everlasting. And it's there that we see the real meaning of this statement when Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Because when we have Him, we really do have life, and we have everything that we need in that. All the nourishment of our spiritual life that we need, we have in Jesus Christ. As we go on to the 44th verse, we see that no man can come to me unless the Father draws him. So there's going to be people in your church or on the fringes of Christianity that's always going to be around, but they really don't. They're just trying to get what they can out of church, out of relationship. You know, I hear people telling stories at my church. It's not the case because we don't have a big church, so somebody joining our church just to make business connections is not going to help them any. But we know that there's big churches and people are members there just to help their business connections. They're there to get what they can out of the structure of the church. But we can't really be in the church. I'm talking about the band of born-again believers unless the Father draws us. And the Father gets to choose who becomes members of that church and partakes of the bread of life and has the joy of this life that we have through Jesus Christ, because He is truly the bread of life. God bless you. Keep it first things first, and I'll see you on the next video.